Hello, my friends, and welcome to this Monday edition of Reflections on the Rock. My name is Ann Kemper, pastor here at Covenant United Methodist Church. Margaret Scott and I have been kind of alternating more or less on offering a reflection on some of our favorite spiritual writers. First we started with Joyce Rupp, and now we're into Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, and his meditations. And I was reading one of his the other day. He has a daily meditation, Margaret's probably mentioned, that you can subscribe to online. So every day you're sent a meditation by Richard Rohr. I highly recommend it. I was looking back through some of the older meditations, and I came across one. We're in this season just before Advent, where we start to hear in Scripture more and more about the new heaven and a new earth. And this idea of recreation, that when Christ comes again, we are, have this opportunity to be recreated anew. And it got me to thinking about, what in my life and possibly in yours stops us from being able to recreate a new and renewed sense of God in our lives. And I came across this devotion where he quotes Bishop Michael Curie, and you might recognize the name. I think he was the one who officiated Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding and did a fabulous job. But one of the things that Bishop Michael Curie says has this quote: "The ability to love yourself is intimately related to your capacity to love others. The challenge is creating a life that allows you to fulfill both needs." And finding that life, creating that life, does require us to do something. And Richard Rohr wrote this devotion on simplifying our lives. And he says this: "My spiritual father," Richard Rohr's spiritual father, Francis of Assisi, did not just tolerate or endure simplicity. He loved it and found his freedom there. He understood that living simply was a way to remedy selfish habits and cultivate generosity. And this week's practice from Kyle David Bennett invites us to consider ways that we might simplify our lives and material possessions. And so here are the steps to simplifying your life. Number 1, pay attention to your purchasing habits. Do you buy in bulk? Are you an impulsive buyer? If you buy in bulk, try getting only stuff for 1 week. Soon you will see how much you really need in a given time. If you're an impulsive buyer, stay away from the things that ignite that impulse. That's good advice. I'm gonna have to work on the bulk buying habit. The second advice is to how often we take out the trash. Keep track of how often we take out the trash. And it's a sign of how much we use and consume, and perhaps of how much we waste. So keep track of how often you take out the trash. And in this particular household, that usually means combing through the refrigerator and disposing of a lot of spoiled food. And this exercise helps one rethink how often we need to purchase that food. And then he says, walk around your home, room by room, item by item, and ask yourself, when was the last time I used this? Now, depending on the object, if you haven't used it in a long time, it might be something that you don't need. You could give it to someone who could use it. And sometimes we deceive ourselves and tell ourselves that we need more than we do. We should practice simplicity, not simply as individuals, families, small group members, close friends, and even to some extent, your next door neighbor, that can help you discern your needs. You could ask them, is there anything in my life that you think I don't need? is there anything that I have that you might need? Because I have a feeling, this is Pastor Ann talking, I don't always know what's in my house that I need or don't need. I just kind of want it. So he says, you need to do some spring cleaning, however you clean your apartment, your house, and to examine and evaluate how you can live simply. So I was thinking about that, and I recently moved a little less than a year ago, and downsized. Plus, I'm sharing my house with another person who actually is compulsively minimalist and very conservative. So it's been a real lesson for me. But what I've discovered is that in the act of moving, relocating, I did simplify and have that kind of heart-to-heart with myself about what I need and what maybe I don't need. And what I've discovered is that I spend a lot less time maintaining and cleaning what I used to have, what I don't need anymore. And so there is a sense of freedom that Richard Rohr talks about in a very similar meditation, a sense of freedom from being held captive by these possessions. Now, of course, the temptation is to just fill that space back up again. It's very reassuring for me personally to have a pantry that's full of bulk food. But I'm not sure I really need it. I really think I could get to the store if I absolutely need something important. And so simply put, according to Richard Rohr, simplifying our lives makes more room for God. It makes more space for love, more time for being who God calls us to be. And I'm probably not saying anything that you haven't heard before or that's new advice, but my advice is to start small, stay focused, and kind of whittle away at the clutter of maybe what you don't really need. And then, as the song says that we're going to sing on Sunday, soon and very soon, you're going to find more room for God, not in your living space, but in your heart. And believe it or not, that more room in your heart is really the most important thing of all. Good night.